All right, now who's ready to meet our very first guest? Awesome. So our very first guest is an Instagram phenomenon. I don't say that lightly. I really mean it. He is a photographer and a designer with a background in architecture. He is really well known in his field for collaborating with companies such as Nike and Samsung here in Australia. I first came across his work about, I would say, 5 or 6 years ago on Instagram. And since then, he has just completely blown up. And you'll see why. Let's show a couple of his pictures. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome me in joining Demas Rusli. Hey Demas, how are you? Demas, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Good, thank you. It's great to have you here. And like I was saying to everyone, I've been a big fan of your work for many years.
Thank you so much.
So it's a personal pleasure to be able to bring the Instagram to life for me. So I actually want to start really with your work, which is, how did you get involved in photography in the first place?
So I was in second year of university. I was doing architecture, Bachelor of Architecture at UNSW. And then at the time, my cousin, who's Indonesian, he's a wedding and pre-wedding photographer, and he had a job in Sydney. And he had a client who was like, hey, can you shoot us in Sydney? And he needed an assistant. And so he didn't know anyone else in Sydney, so he asked me, he's like, can you help me change lenses, help me hold the flash? And we went to like the Snowy Mountains, and like,
Oh, wow.
it was a pretty epic weekend. And like, he was happy, the clients were happy. And then just that day, I just started taking photos on like my phone.
Wow, so that was your first time really getting into photography. It was like when someone asked you, like, hey, can you lend me a hand?
Yeah, I had no idea what what cameras were, and I mean, I knew what a camera was, but like, not what people did with them. Yeah. And then, and then I just started shooting on my phone, and then I enjoyed it. And then a week later, bought my first like entry-level DSLR. Yeah. And then I started my Instagram account around the same time, and then it all I just kept posting on Instagram, and then it kind of grew from there.
Yeah, and then here we are.
Yeah.
What do you think, like when you first, picked up a camera and, that first work with your cousin, what do you think it was that really got you so excited about photography?
I think just like capturing things differently. Like I like to see something and like, how do I make this look different, or something that people don't usually see? And I think a camera, I can do that with a camera. Yeah. And using different lenses or whatever, you can play a lot. And I do a lot of work on Photoshop as well, because I did university in architecture, and you had to learn Photoshop. And I think what the turning point for me was when I like combined my photography with like architecture and Photoshop stuff. And then I started like mixing it and like flipping cities upside down and like putting stuff in places, and then people questioning if things are real and not.
Yeah, so we've got some of these photos just behind you here.
Yeah.
So tell us, how does this come together, these kind of photos? And
I guess I see inspiration like from lots of different places. I mean, I've met a lot of friends through Instagram as well, other photographers and other creative people. And just like I see some inspiration, and I'm like, how can I use that for my images, and how do I, take it to the next level? So these images are like shots using a ground photo and also a drone photo. So it's like combining ground photo and drone photo into like a perspective kind of different style. Yeah,
and how would you describe your aesthetic? Because I think one thing that stands out for me, and please, after this, please check out @Demas, Demas, on Instagram, because you will see the full variety of photos. But how would you describe overall, like, your aesthetic?
I think I do a lot of architecture, urban, and like travel photography, but at the same time, just like mixing it up with like fantasy a little bit, like just trying to think outside the box and see where I can take a photo, like how far I can go, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. That's so cool. And I think we have one photo of like the Inception style with the Golden Gate Bridge, which really stands out to me. So the photo on the right is one of the Inception style. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. What?
I guess I was inspired by Inception.
He's ahead of me. He is really ahead of me. So, I mean, tell us more about how what's the process of creating a photo like that?
So that's a skyline of Hong Kong, and I flew my drone over the city, and it was not meant to do it, but when I was flying it and looking at these things, like the screen, it was like epic, and I was like, this is insane how many tall buildings there are, and like I've never seen a city like this. And then I just was playing around on the computer and I flipped it upside down. I'm like, oh, this is kind of cool. And then I decided to just give it a bit of relatability and put a human in there to just look like in my photos I always try to put like a person just for scale and for relatability. And I learned that through architecture. And like when you're designing something or when you're creating a render, you always want to put a person in there just to see like how big the room is or how. So that's kind of like where I get that through my photography.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I have seen in a number of your photos, you have that and lots of different lines. And do you think that, like, how else has architecture inspired your work?
I think, line, symmetry, geometry, like all that kind of stuff. I'm always inspired by that kind of stuff.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
So I want to hear more about actually taking the photos, because you've mentioned, for example, using drones where drones perhaps aren't allowed. So, what do you? Is there a moment that stands out for you of like where you have gotten that perfect shot?
I think so. I mean, there's going to be a lot of my work is some of them not Photoshop, some of them Photoshop, but there's a range of stuff. So there are times where it's like this is already so good, I don't need to do much to it. It's just like I guess it depends on the lighting, the place, the sky, and like I guess lots of different factors combine to create, I guess, a photo.
Yeah, I see.
Yeah.
And you have a very strong focus on urban. What interests you the most about urban photography?
I think just like different architecture, like how different cities have been built up, and like Tokyo, New York, like Hong Kong, they're all such different cities, but at the same time, there's so much interesting things to take photos of, like facades and lookups, and I don't know. There's so many cool buildings everywhere, so I always look for that when I'm traveling.
Yeah, and so this one you have here, where is that?
That's the Vessel in New York.
Yeah, that's a new building, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's not really a building. It's just a bunch of stairs. Like literally, it just goes up to nothing.
Oh, it doesn't?
It's just like a lookout point. I don't know what it is, but it's just like a honeycomb-looking thing that not really a building.
Not really, but great for photos.
It's just like a landmark kind of thing.
Okay.
Yeah, so people just walk around the stairs and just get to the top, and then that's it.
And then they just go all the way back down.
Walk back down, yeah.
Well, that was it.
Yeah. But I mean, it looks amazing.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
Yeah, it reminds me of that Escher, the work. It's like, am I just walking around the same box, or am I actually getting to look at?
It's designed by a famous architect, I think Thomas Heatherwick.
Heatherwick, yeah. Oh, yeah, he did the London Olympics.
Yeah,
and
The bus is a thing in London, he designed the new one.
Yeah, he's really well known. So do you get inspiration from people, like other designers who aren't in architecture as well?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, you get inspiration from everything, right? Like just even walking on the street, you see something, you can get inspired. Like I think it's just like anywhere, and like life experiences, everything inspires everything I do, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. And I know that you've touched a little bit on your work with Photoshop. How big a role does that play in? You started off in photography, but then you moved a lot into Photoshop. Like, what kind of led you to do more and more of that fantasy or mixing different images together?
I think, I take photos and then I always think, like, how can I push it? Like, how can I make it different or better or, do something that people haven't really seen before?
Yeah.
And so, I don't know, I can color a photo in so many different ways, but then, like, I kind of wanted to try something different. Like, how about, like, flipping something and mirroring it to create a new space? Like, I remember doing a photo once in the Art Gallery of New South Wales, and there was an installation with like a bunch of colourful balls. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's anyway. So it's like you can only get one shot facing it,
Yeah.
and I was like, I can't really get a good angle here. So what I tried to do was I stepped to the side and I put my wife at the very end of the corridor, and then the artwork was on the right side.
Yeah.
And then I thought, what if I should mirror it? And then I changed the colours of it. And then so many people on Instagram were like, where is this? And then they're like, I couldn't see a corridor. And then I was like, yeah, maybe try looking or something, like, I don't know, but like...
Try looking way harder.
Yeah. But I mean, I think that kind of stuff, like intriguing things, is what makes me like enjoy photography a lot, because I like to like look at like optical illusions and stuff like that. I really enjoy that kind of stuff, and like tricking people to think if things are real or not. I don't know if you want to see the plane one.
Yeah, we've got a picture of the plane. Yeah, this one.
Yeah, so
So tell us about this. Did you find a plane in the forest?
I did find a plane, but not in a forest.
Okay. So where was it?
So the plane is in Bali. There's like
Okay.
a abandoned plane in like a open field. And then we went to Bali and I flew my drone over it. It was awesome. And then I had this idea of like, what if I photoshopped it into a forest?
Yeah.
And then I didn't find the correct forest until like a year later when I was in Hawaii.
Oh.
And so I flew my drone over this forest in Hawaii. And I'm like, I could grab that plane from Bali that I took a year ago and try to mesh them together and like combine it into an image. And then, yeah, so many people are asking where that is in Bali.
They're like running through the forest, like desperate, trying to find the plane. You've sent people on so many different wild goose chases trying to find stuff, haven't you?
Yeah, I mean, to me, photography can be interpreted in so many different ways, right? There's like journalists who keep it true to what they see, which is awesome, right? I respect journalists and what they do. But for me, it's just about having fun and creating things and just, using my camera to create new worlds, basically.
That's right, yeah. And I think that's clearly where the design part of, being a photographer and designer comes in.
Yeah,
I see.
And a lot of the stuff I do is like I take my own photos rather than using like stock images, for example, to mesh. So I go out of my way to take my photos and then I try to combine them all into like one thing.
I see,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. It's really cool. And so you've studied and worked in architecture. Tell us a bit more about that and how, are you still working as an architect?
No, so I quit working in an architecture office maybe in May last year.
Okay.
So what happened was I finished university and then I worked 5 years in an architecture firm called FGMT in Sydney. And throughout all that, I was also taking photos on the side. So I was like still pushing like photography, working with brands still.
Yeah.
And over time, I got more and more jobs in photography that I started like cutting my time in architecture, so I became part-time. So like 4 days a week, and then it went down to 3 days a week. And then when the pandemic hit, the office asked me to take a leave because I was a part-time staff. Okay. And then it ended up being 2 months of leave. So 1 month was paid, 1 month was unpaid. Oh. And I decided to use that time to see if I could like do photography full-time. I think I could have done it like earlier, like I could have made the jump earlier, but I think this sort of, my company telling me that like you need to go on leave kind of made me realize I could do it now.
Yeah, so you took a really challenging moment of, being, asked to, be, on leave.
Yeah.
And you use that as an opportunity to jump full-time into what you're doing.
Yeah, I was making lots of TikTok videos.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Not dancing, but other stuff on TikTok.
You're like, this photography has worked well for Insta, but it's new for TikTok. Let's do something new. No.
Yeah, I was trying to, because TikTok was obviously quite new back then, and I was just trying to see what space I could do, like what sort of style of videos I could do, and I was like showing, like I traveled here, and then these are the photos I got, and then I posted one TikTok where it was like, guess how many followers do you think I have? It's like kind of dumb. Yeah. And then it blew up. It got like 3.8 million views in 2 days. And I grew 170K in a day on TikTok, which is ridiculous. It blew my mind. I was like, I've been on Instagram for like 9 years, and I'm on 300K-ish. Yeah. And I grew that in a day.
One day?
Yeah.
Whoa.
Which is crazy.
I told you, he's a social media phenomenon. Yeah. So, I mean, wait till you start doing your TikTok dances.
Oh,
Like, imagine. Imagine. I tell you, it's an untapped market. This has been great for you. But you never know. I don't know. Let me know how it goes. I'll be watching. So, I mean, that's so interesting because you've seen social media rise from like you said, like almost a decade ago.
Yeah.
How has it changed from your perspective?
I mean, I think everyone's on social media now, I guess. It was so shocking that I could earn money from social media, for example. Like, I didn't know all that could happen. So I started just posting photos for fun on Instagram. And then all of a sudden, I got an email from Adidas. It's like, how is this even possible? And then they were like, hey, do you want to shoot these shoes and post 3 photos of it, and we'll just give you the shoes? And then I was like, yeah. Because I was so excited, right?
Yeah, that's like awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, and then over time you just realize that you should charge for the work that you put into all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So you learn that over time. But at the beginning you're just like, oh yeah, I'll take a pair of shoes. But then I guess from that, doing something like that, it kind of always leads to one thing always leads to another.
Yeah.
So a few months later, Nike approached me, and then a few months later, it was New Balance. It was like it just kept flowing and flowing. I'm like, this is pretty crazy.
Yeah.
And I never reached out to any brand because I was working in an architecture firm. So they just emailed me out of the blue, and I'm like, this is pretty I couldn't believe it when it was happening.
Yeah, it's amazing how you've transitioned into working full time, and I know you do some work with Samsung as well.
Yeah,
yes, tell us about that.
Working with Samsung Australia for maybe 4 or 5 years now.
Yeah.
It was just like in the past, it was like, hey, we'll give you a phone and then take photos with your phone and post it on Instagram. But now it's kind of grown into like a sort of bigger relationship. I did a live stream with them on Wednesday this week. It's kind of grown into like a collaboration and partnership with Samsung Australia.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Congratulations on that
so
work.
much.
That's fantastic. And what really stands out to me about you as well is the community that you've built around your work on YouTube and in different ways through Insta Lives. You teach a lot of people how to create photos of their own. Can you tell us a bit more about that community and how what that means to you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm always up for teaching people stuff. I I didn't get to where I am without learning off other people. So I'm always my YouTube videos are tutorials on how to edit something like this or do that. And I'm never about keeping secrets or anything. It's never gonna not who I am, I guess.
Yeah.
But a few years ago, I was only shooting photos at night because I was working in an architecture firm. And so a friend and I started this thing called Global Night Squad. Where we just put up on our Instagram page. It was like, hey guys, let's do a meetup. And it was the first time, and we set it on a Friday night, let's meet in front of the MCA. And then it was a rainy Friday night, I remember, and 90 people rocked up.
Oh, wow.
To in front of the MCA, and it was so crazy. And then we kept doing it, and then in Sydney, it grew to 300 people at one stage coming to these events.
Oh my gosh.
And yeah, it
wow,
felt
and so the purpose is you all get together and you shoot together?
Yeah, you meet like-minded people who like to take photos, you do a photo walk, and then we also try to get brands to sponsor prizes. So you post your photos that you took on that night, and then the people with the best photos we would give prizes to.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, and then we did one in Melbourne, in Brisbane, and we even did one in Hong Kong and stuff. So it was quite fun. Hasn't happened in a while, but yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, that's right. Well, 300 people gathering together in one spot,
It felt like a riot with with cameras.
You're just what have I created?
Yeah, it was crazy.
There's a big group of people here.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fascinating. That's great. And so I also want to touch a little bit on your Indonesian heritage. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
So my family moved to Sydney when I was 7 years old.
Oh, great.
There was a big kind of political riot happening in Jakarta at the time, and I think my parents just wanted to get away from it for a bit, so they booked a 2-week holiday in Sydney, and we ended up staying.
Wow, yeah.
We already had permanent residency at the time, and we ended up staying and stay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we didn't go back. We only had clothes for 2 weeks, and we didn't go back for 6 months.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow, that's it's incredible to think, you're only coming temporarily and then your whole new life.
My mum just enrolled us into a school during our holiday.
So are you scared to go on holidays now? You might start a new life somewhere?
maybe.
Yeah, I see. That's fascinating. And so you mentioned your cousin. I mean, coming full circle, your cousin who was visiting from Indonesia introduced you to photography.
Yeah.
Do you still maintain links with Indonesia?
Yeah, I mean, like, all my family is still there. Like, my aunties, all my cousins and my grandparents are all still in Indonesia. And so I try to go back often. Like, back when I was in, like, school, we would go back, like, at least once a year. But now it's starting to get a little bit harder because of no traveling. But yeah, I still love to go back.
Yeah, and your audience is so international. Do you have followers in Indonesia and Asia as well? With all your work in like Hong Kong and Shanghai, you show a lot of those photos.
On like my Instagram insights, it says like US #1 and then India #2, and then Australia #3. I think Indonesia's 4th.
Oh, that's cool. It's good Indonesia's still supporting the... that's great.
Yeah, they love it when they see like another Indonesian person doing well, and they're like,
Oh, that's so special. Well, like I was saying at the start of this show, for me, it's about meeting different, and variety of different first-generation Australians, and I'm just so grateful that we're able to, put a spotlight on the work that you've done.
Thank
I think
you so much.
your work is so creatively inspiring in the way that you see a real-life image and then add or take different images and make a fantasy or a really exciting image and experience. So everyone, please do check out Demas's work online. It's just so inspiring, and I hope that you can watch his new TikTok videos too. Demas, thank you so much for being here. It's a pleasure to talk to you, and I look forward to following the rest of your work.
Thank you so much.
Thank you
guys.